Greetings everybody, Runeterra here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you another Legends of Runeterra video, and today is going to be a discussion on the new patch notes released by Riot today for the game. Basically, this is a major patch that they're going to be doing to change, a lot of the balancing of the game, nerfing problematic cards and buffing underplayed cards. So, usual balancing stuff for competitive games. But yeah, we're going to go ahead. I thought it would be pretty fun to go ahead and share my thoughts on it and give you guys my opinions on the changes. There's some pretty good ones and some pretty nutty ones as well. I'm really excited for this. This will be released on, or this will be, the balance patch will be applied on Tuesday, May 26th. I'm recording this on the Monday when they release the notes, and I will be playing the game probably the Wednesday, so May 27th. I'll be playing and streaming, so be sure to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Rakamdar. I'll be playing this patch live. I'll be playing a lot of Callista, because that was kind of the my main deck that I wanted to play test, which if you watch my last Callista video, you'll know. And then of course there's some new changes to champions that I also want to play test in this patch, so there'll be a lot of stuff, there'll be a lot of fun stuff to do, so be sure to check out the Twitch if you're interested in that. Come in, chat with me, ask me questions. We'll, the good old stuff when it comes to Twitch streams, and you can come in and have a good time. As well, while we're on the self-promotional nonsense, let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and remind you guys, please leave a like on the video if this is something that you will enjoy. It does help out the channel quite a lot. YouTube likes it, the YouTube algorithm likes it when you press buttons, so if it would mean quite a lot to me if you press that one that does the thumbs up. So, but yeah, and then of course, if you want to see more Legends of Runeterra content, be sure to subscribe. I will be doing a lot more Legends of Runeterra content in the future. That is pretty much the main focus of the channel as of now. I try to do 3 videos per week. I don't have a dedicated upload day. I know some streamer or some YouTubers do have specific days that they upload the videos on, but I don't have that at the moment. But I do have a personal kind of goal of mine to make 3 videos per week, so keep that in mind. And of course, subscribe, hitting the bell notification icon lets you know when those videos are live. Anyway, enough shameless self-promotion for YouTube stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about Man, talking fast and commentating can be pretty rough sometimes. Let's go ahead and talk. Communicate, discuss the new patches. 1.2 is our first balance change since the debut of Rising Tides, the new expansion. And so, oh yeah, they're changing the way that they release the patches, but basically, we'll continue to patch every other Tuesday. Wait, what? I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Well, whatever. You can read all this if you're interested, but basically we're here. I'm here for the cards. I don't care about whatever their updating schedule is. I know in the past they were basically they have a big patch, small patch, big patch, small patch, kind of alternating cycle that they intend to do. This is pretty smart. As a card game, you want to make sure that you're not being too forceful of the meta. One of the worst things you can do as a card game designer is basically pigeonhole the meta by making a billion changes and hard nerfing, hard buffing a ton of stuff, right? You want to make sure that you give the community enough time to be creative with their deck building and creative with their choices. And you don't want to just, if you see something doing stupid strong, you don't want to immediately assume that it's because that way. Maybe, people just aren't prepared for that particular deck or prepared for that strategy and they don't know how to play against it, or don't have a couple of tech cards for it. So that's the kind of approach for card games. It's a very safe approach, and I think it's probably I do think it is the best way to approach the balancing. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I'm not going to spoil the next stuff. We got Vladimir. Vladimir is a really neat champion. He's actually the first champion I crafted. He's one of my favorite League of Legends champions, and I was really interested to play him in this game. Unfortunately, he fell below the usual bar, but they are giving him a nice kind of change to make him feel a little bit better. Previously, for each attacking ally, deal 1 to that ally and then 1 to the enemy nexus. So if you have, let's say, 4 allies. You got, Vladimir right here. He will deal 1 damage to each of these allies, and then he will deal 3 damage to the Nexus because he dealt damage to 3 allies. And then, if you have 5 allies, he's going to ping all of those, deal 1 to them, and then deal 4. It's a pretty neat effect, but it oftentimes the kind of self damage that it does to your own units, obviously that's not great. I mean, a lot of the units that he gets paired up with benefit from it a lot of the times, but it can be very difficult for for you to get the full combos going and feel very satisfying. But now we have, for each other attacking ally, deal 1 to it and drain from the enemy Nexus. So instead of dealing 3 damage, it'll drain 3, which of course heals you. And healing in this game is pretty lacking, and so it's really cool to see that they're giving a little bit of a niche to Vladimir in the... I don't think there's any other healing source in the what's it, Noxus. I don't think there's any other healing sources in Noxus to my knowledge at the moment. So having that on Vladimir is pretty nice. Draining from the Nexus, it feels more like his Blood Mage kind of archetype. I mean, he heals whenever he deals damage in League of Legends, so honestly kind of confused as to how it took them this long to make him drain from the enemy Nexus. But this is a pretty cool change. I don't know, it's probably not going to make Vladimir super viable. The main problems with the Vladimir decks wasn't his ability, it was more so kind of the build around. There wasn't a ton of meaningful ways to build around Vladimir that felt rewarding to that type of playstyle. So hopefully my hope is that this will incentivize some more creative deck building, and people will try them out and come up with a really cool Vlad deck that I can kind of net deck and show you guys. I'll be messing with Vlad myself after I finish kind of pinning down the Callista deck that I want to mess with. But yeah, pretty cool card, or pretty cool change. Really nice like quality of life update, and really nice kind of theme update to the champion. Now he feels a little bit more kind of towards his Blood Mage theme that that's Vladimir, right? Feels more like him as a champion. So anyway, we have Karma nerfs, which were pretty expected. I do like that this is a nice first step for Karma. Upgrading her mana from 5 to 6. It's not going to significantly alter her in any way, and it's not going to do any craziness, but it does make her a little bit weaker. And of course, this doesn't always have to be the end of the nerfs. I really don't know if I like the way Karma is designed as a card. Personally, I love it. Always feels good to play Karma. I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you ever played Karma yourself, I used to play Karma Ezreal, right? I was one of the degenerate Karma Ezreal players. It feels really satisfying to throw out Ezreal, throw out Karma, and you got like a couple of health potions and like a couple of the mushrooms, and you just kind of machine gun your opponent down with burst spells because of Karma. It feels really satisfying and really like fun to play, but it's horrendous to play against. And so honestly, this card design might not be very healthy for the future of the game. I think this might be one of the more problematic ones as they release new cards, because like there's a lot of cards that she just gets a ton of like extra value of that you really shouldn't. Like a good example is Withering Wail, right? Withering Wail deals 1 to everything and heals 3. If Karma's on the field, that happens twice, and you get to heal 6, and you get to deal 2 to to every unit on the field. Like, it's honestly kind of crazy. So granted, like Withering Wail is not even like some of the more problematic stuff with Karma. Like when you see Karma Lux and you get like the full combo where Lux has like 7 lasers coming at your face because Karma duplicated them all, like you get a lot of really nutty stuff with Karma. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's really interesting to see what kind of like duplication stuff you can do, but I'm not too sure if they should keep it for the future of the game, simply because it means creating fun and interesting spells becomes a problem, right? Because if they make them too crazy and too like powerful, Karma comes in and just says, you know what? I'm just gonna use those spells now because I double them. Whenever you're playing against Karma, it often feels like turn 10 loses the game, right? Regardless of which deck you're playing against, if Karma's on the field on turn 10, it feels almost unwinnable, right? Like, there's very few cases in which you will be winning against a leveled up enlightened Karma. So I do think that they will need to take a look at her and see if what kind of changes they want to look at future. But for the short term, this is a pretty good way of changing Karma. So now, whenever Karma gets played at 6 mana, you now have less mana to play those spells, right? So it forces you to play Karma a turn later, and then it also, if you're playing Karma before round 10, then it means that you have less resources to protect her. You don't have, like, if you're playing her, like if you have round 7 and you have spell mana, you're playing Karma, you only get 4 mana to protect her, which, you know, that's a deny, but that's only one deny. No healing, no protection of other sorts, where otherwise you would have 5 mana, which could have been, you know, 2 buffs maybe, or something like that, you know? So this does help a lot in dealing with that particular matchup, but I do think she could still be problematic, especially moving forward. So I hope they look into her a little bit more, see what they want to do. The next update to the champion pool is going to be Shen, and Shen is getting a buff from 2 power to 3 power. And this is actually a pretty neat or interesting reasoning by it. They said he tends to require Demacia in your deck to really shine. For now, we're boosting his power to make him more of a threat on his own and easier to plan profitable attacks around, which is kind of indicating to me that they want Shen to not be so Demacia reliant. They want you to be able to potentially play him elsewhere. I do think that's a neat idea, and I would love to see if anyone could come up with a Shen deck that isn't in Demacia, but I don't foresee this actually like changing a ton. Shen's still going to be a pretty underwhelming champion compared to the, you know, rest of them. His support ability is great, but the problem is he has to be attacking himself, and it does put him in, you know, puts him in harm's way. Attacking into a Chump Wump, for example, he will, you know, he'll kill the Chump Wump now. Previously he didn't, right? That's the kind of, that is the nice thing about this improvement, is he does trade more favorably. Your opponent might feel less inclined to block the Shen because they won't get a lot of damage on him, or because their unit will die. Sorry, their unit will die for blocking most of the time now. But for the most part, like, they're still getting like 4 damage, which would put him in Vile Feast range, Thermo Beam at 1 mana range. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot of, he's just, I don't know, he's in a weird spot. The barrier itself is not, like, his level up condition's pretty rough. His support ability can be underwhelming if you don't have a good kind of tempo going. So I'm just not super sure if this will make much of a difference, but I would like to see if they can make, or if anybody could be creative with Shen and make him a little bit, or put him in a deck that isn't Demacia, or maybe even make a Demacia deck around him now. I'd like to see that, see if there's anything interesting rolling around. I'm a really big fan of Shen, actually. I like his card design. I think he's really fun. Stand United, his champion card, is one of my favorite cards in the game. I really like its kind of unique way of interacting with your opponent. But, you know, for the most part, he's still going to be, you know, somewhat underwhelming. I might mess with him a little bit, see if I can figure anything out. But for the time being, he's going to be lower on the list. We have Vi, another champion change. They changed quite a lot of champions now that I think about it. Vi got a health reduction. Toughness with 5 health was just a little bit too much for what she brought to the table. A 5 mana with potentially like 6 or 7 attack was just insane. And of course, the tough 5 attack made it so that you couldn't really, you know, she was, you know, tough. As the keyword, it's, you know, is self-explanatory. She is tough to deal with. So I do like this little nerf. It does make her feel a lot less kind of pressuring. If you're going up against her, you feel like you might be able to get a couple of grasps on her, maybe get excited. You know, maybe you can beat her down with some of your units and then finish her off with a damage spell. These types of things are now going to be more viable. And then finally we have Hecarim. This is a pretty nice little buff. I'm glad that they're actually keeping track of some of the underplayed champions and aren't afraid to buff a champion even though they used to be problematic. For some of you guys who are new to the channel, or new to the game I should say, Hecarim used to actually be in Vi's position, where he was just so good that if you were playing Shadow Isles, you ran Hecarim. No matter what Shadow Isles archetype you're playing, no matter what you were doing with Shadow Isles, you had to play Hecarim. Vi is kind of in that spot right now with Piltover. If you're playing Piltover, you have to play Vi. Like, it's just, she's just too good to not be running. And Hecarim was in that spot. Every single Shadow Isles deck was playing Hecarim, and it was very, very overwhelming. So he got nerfed. But he, you know, he hasn't seen much play yet anymore. The nerfs to him was actually pretty significant. So Riot's going in, they're like, hey, we can afford to give him a buff now, and they're giving him extra power, which will make him feel a lot better at 6 mana with a 5/5. You know, the stat line's still a little bit questionable, but at least now he will be able to potentially trade more favorably with a lot of blockers and, you know, deal some damage himself. So I really like that. And then we got the followers. It's time to get out of the champions and into the followers. We do have Great Thorn Companion. He is being boosted from 4 attack to 5. This is going to be supplementary to the other change that was being... This is to supplement a nerf that is coming up as well. Basically, the way that they did it was they shifted power. Instead of the power being earlier on, they shifted it towards something a little later. And what I mean by that is Grizzled Ranger and Loyal Badger Bear both got their attack power nerfed, which is good. Badger Bear was pretty insane, and Grizzled Ranger was also pretty insane. But these are no longer going to be such an overwhelming force to deal with when it comes to playing Demacia, playing versus Demacia. And you got these 3 mana, or he's going to be 3/1 and then 3/4, which is really nice. And as a result, in order to keep the scout, kind of the scout strategy still viable, they made it so that you feel more compelled to actually play other scouts, right? You don't see any of the other scouts seeing play outside of these ones and then the occasional Bilgewater scouts. So now we have another scout, or this scout being buffed to potentially incentivize that extra, you know, slot into the deck if you're still interested in playing scouts themselves. A 5 mana 5/5 with scout is actually not terrible. Like, he can attack in, get some damage. If you're playing the Misfortune version of the deck, you know, that's going to be proccing the Misfortune, and you might get some pretty good value out of this card. It does compete with Quinn at 5 mana, which is one of the kind of main reasons that you might not see this might not see any more extra, you know, this might not see, holy crap, I'm talking way too fast. One of the reasons this might not actually see any play, but I do think this is going to be something people should now consider, which is a really important thing. Grizzled Ranger, Badger Bear, it's pretty self-explanatory. They were just insane cards, had to get hit. Laurent Chevalier is just kind of a, why does this card still exist? Question mark. An extra health isn't really going to make this card more playable. It's a neat card, but it doesn't really synergize with its condition. Like, it wants to, I don't know. It doesn't, it's 4 mana. It's 4 mana. That's too much. Maybe if it was 3 mana, I could see this being a lot better, but at 4 mana, that's too much. That's too much. But, oh well, if you like the card, maybe you can make it work better. So, who knows. 4 mana for Standalone. This is a nerf I was actually not expecting, to be honest. I knew Standalone has been showing its hand and as being somewhat problematic, but I honestly didn't expect Standalone to actually get hit. It's a really good change. 3 mana is a very powerful place to be as a spell, and putting it up to 4 is pretty nice. I really like this kind of neat little way of balancing spells, where you make it kind of flow into the unit mana, or the core mana, I guess. I don't know what you would call it, but the kind of the core mana bar that you have to deal with, and then you have the spell mana, right? So making spells tap into the core mana is a really powerful way to kind of nerf them, especially these lower cost spells. This is something that happened with Deny. In the beta, Deny was actually 3 mana for a while, and they nerfed it to 4 mana. So now Deny feels more like it's more of a commitment, right? Because in order to play Deny, you have to tap into that core mana pool, which means you won't be able to play units. And now this is the same with Standalone, right? In order to use Standalone, you have to consider whether or not you'll be able to play the units in your hand, whether or not you will be able to develop your board even further. And it still kind of fits, right? Because Standalone, you don't really want to develop a huge board. You want, like, that's the whole purpose of the card, is to buff a single target. But now the mana kind of reflects that, you know, not sure what the word is. The mana now kind of reflects that desire in strategy. So in order to develop further after using this card, you have to wait extra turns, giving your opponent the potential to respond. So I really like this change. And as they said, it can lead to undesirable gameplay patterns. All in the Zed standalone deck, I'm sure some of you have seen it, some of you hate it. It's not, you know, it's either super frustrating because it just destroys you, or it's just like lull your natural deck type situation. But yeah, this card definitely could even be more problematic depending on other decks that might have taken advantage of it. I think we're lucky that they hit this before something even worse showed up. So pretty good change there. Again, I wasn't really expecting it because, I don't know, I just really didn't. I knew it was like somewhat problematic, but it wasn't like in your face problematic as much as like the Legion Rearguard was. So Legion Rearguard is now a 3 mana 1 mana 3/1, so he lost 1 HP. This is really important because there's a lot of 1 mana stuff now that can kill him at the start of the game. 1 mana Thermo Beam. A lot of 1-drops with 1 damage or 1 attack point will now be able to kill him when they trade. There's a lot of, you know, more healthy interactions with this card. I think they even mentioned this, but basically whenever Rearguard was played on turn 1, the win rate with that play was significantly stronger than the win rate with other turn 1 plays, right? So yeah, we saw that a round 1 Rearguard often gave decks a significant boost in win rate compared to other cards when played on curve. So even playing the other turn 1 card that deals damage to Nexus, the basically the worst Boom Crew Rookie that has 1 mana, like even playing something like that just doesn't give you a good enough, like it's nowhere near as good as playing Rearguard on turn 1. So I do like this health decrease. It actually makes them okay, that was a talking too fast again. It also makes you feel a bit more kind of protective of this card. Makes you want to consider, do I want to drop it? Maybe you know, he's sitting there waiting with the Withering Wail, which will just destroy this now. Maybe he's got a Vile Feast. Maybe you don't want to drop this until he taps out of, or your opponent taps out of mana. So I do like this change. It also comes in conjunction with a Boom Crew Rookie nerf. So Boom Crew Rookie is also losing 1 HP. This is a really nice change. Rookie was a pretty big powerhouse of a card. Now he can trade. Now you can trade into him with some 3 attack units and only get 1 proc of his ability off. I do really like that. Oftentimes Boom Crew could just get several procs off in, you know, multiple rounds because he would survive pretty much everything. So that's a nice little change. You know, they nerfed aggro, but they didn't gut aggro. If you're an aggro player, you know, you're gonna notice these changes, but you're still gonna be able to play and probably still have a pretty good win rate. Next we have Kindly Tavern Keeper. He is getting a power increase to 3. This is a really nice change because now he feels like a real unit. Previously he was like, I'm gonna heal myself and then I have a chump blocker. So basically, he felt no better than a 1/1 spider or something, something else. But now he actually feels like a proper unit, something that you can rely on to help establish board control and also get the added benefit of healing. They also mentioned that healing is part of Freljord's regional identity. I don't know where they get that from, because outside of the ramping effects that they do mention, it just doesn't seem the case. Most of the healing, like if someone asked me what region is the healing region, I would say Shadow Isles. So, like, Freljord doesn't come to mind when I think of that. But I don't know, maybe there's some more stuff they intend to do with that. Who knows? Deep Meditation got nerfed by 1 mana, so now instead of a 4 mana card, it is 5, which also means if you met its condition to, if you met its like extra condition, instead of being 3 mana or 2 mana, it is now 3, which is really nice because at 4 mana, a draw 2, 4 mana draw 2 is a really good card. So this was seeing play in other decks, right? So this incentivizes you to build around the concept of the spell combo, right? That's kind of what this card was designed for. It was designed to be part of the spell combo stuff. But what people were doing was they were just playing this card in good spell decks, right? A lot of Piltover decks with Ionia would run this card. They don't have like a lot of combos, but they just have really good spells that they can use, and so they would get a lot of value out of this. So I do like that they're trying to shift it a bit more to the idea of the combo instead of just being a generic good card. But it's still going to be a pretty good card. Like, it's still going to be a draw 2, right? And it's going to be 5 mana. It's a little bit worse, but you could still make it a 3 mana draw 2, which is really good. And then for comparison's sake, there is Salvage, which is a 4 mana draw 2. It doesn't draw only spells, but it is a 4 mana draw 2. So this was just as good as Salvage, and it potentially became even better than Salvage because you could get a 2 mana draw 2. So I'm really glad that they made that change. Now you have to play around the spell combo a bit more to make this an actual reliable draw 2. So I like that. Next we have Brood Awakening. This is a nerf that is being this is a nerf from 5 to 6 mana, and I really do like this change. Some of the beta, some beta stuff that happened. This used to be 6 mana previously. Nobody played it, but then they buffed it to 5 mana, and then everyone played it. And my real issue with the card was that it was played in control decks to make them more aggressive / stally, right? It gave them 3 trump blockers, and if they're playing Elise, they could also potentially hit you really hard early on, right? If they play this on turn 3, which they can do if they pass 1 and 2, that's 6 damage to your face if you don't have a response. And then because the spiders are 2/1, oftentimes you won't feel very incentivized to block them, right? Because most of the time they might actually trade. If you have units from round 1 and 2, these are going to trade with those units, and you might not actually want to block them. So if they make that initial pass play in round 3 with 6, with 3 extra spell mana and 3 normal mana, they'll be able to play this, get 6 damage, probably get 6 damage to your face. Because it's a control deck with Piltover, they're going to blow you up at the end of the game anyway, so that extra 6 damage can go a long way. They're going to be able to kill you with the Get Excited, with the Mystic Shot, with the Ladros, with the Karina. So there's a lot of stuff. And then if they had Elise, if they had other spiders that they were also playing and they played this card, Elise suddenly levels up, and then they could challenge, and then it spirals out of control, and all of a sudden, even though you're playing Karina control, you were playing against a spider aggro deck. This was designed to make spider aggro a bit better after some other nerfs, but instead it got played in other strategies. And Crane of Control doesn't do the spider stuff anymore because they have Vi now, but you know, it was still pretty infuriating to play against a control deck that could like rush me down pretty quickly sometimes. And then even if they couldn't do the rush down strategy, they still had 3 chump blockers that they could stall the game out with. And I don't know, 5 mana was a little bit too cheap. Now at 6 mana, they can still make some of those good strategies. I don't think this is going to go back to unplayable. I hope it doesn't. I can't really see it going unplayable because it's still. I still think it's a good card in some of the controlled decks. It's still 3 chump blockers that you can use. Additionally, if you're playing Endure Spiders, you can do this to. You can still use this pretty effectively in They Who Endure decks. And Endure Spiders already did that. They were using it to promote or to buff up their They Who Endure to like really ridiculous lengths, but now they have to commit a bit more to that strategy. So I do like this change quite a lot. I don't know, it's just not a really good, it's not a well-designed spider card, to be honest. If you wanted this to be like a spider card, I would probably say you have to add an extra condition to it and then lower the cost, right? Be like, if you control a spider or if you control a lease or something like that at 4 or 5 mana again, then you can summon the spiders with 1/0. But as a generic card, I don't think this is going to ever really be used in spiders. Additionally, spiders kind of suck. Like, Bilgewater added a ton of crazy cards that can just kill spiders. Like, spiders get killed so easily nowadays that spiders probably will never really be a good deck anymore. So, rip the spiders. Next, we have Longtooth. He's gaining 1 health, and as we discussed with spiders, having 1 extra. The difference between 1 HP and 2 is significant. Really, really significant. There's a lot of things in the game that can deal 1 damage and they're pretty reliable and effective. And there's a lot of like AoE stuff with 1 damage. You got, especially with Bilgewater, they added things like Make It Rain. They added like Parlay. They added a bunch of pretty powerful 1 damage things. And then of course Shadow Isles has Withering Wail that just deals 1 damage to everything. So now with the extra health, Longtooth can potentially get in his attack as opposed to just dying instantly. So that's really nice. Still not a good card, but it is a free card, right? I don't think you're ever going to play Chum the Waters without playing Fizz. You're just going to play Fizz, and you're going to get Chum the Waters every time you attack with Fizz's level up condition. So it is a free card, and that could potentially make you want to consider using the free card, but it's still going to be one of those like kind of off to the side changes. We have Monkey Idol getting a 1 HP buff. This really doesn't change much. It's more of a, hey guys, I got buffed. Remember me? Maybe you want to play me now? Maybe. Aside from that, I don't really think this is going to get changed to, or this is going to really have a big impact. Maybe some meme decks will show up that actually can work a lot better. Who knows? Monkey Idol, it's still just going to be kind of meh for the most part. But hey, it got buffed. Remember this card? And then finally, Slotbot got changed from a 3 mana 0/3 to a 3 mana 1/4. This is a pretty significant buff to the card actually, because that's 2 stats. This allows it to snowball a lot quicker. The cycling and shuffling of its stats is going to be ramped up a little bit faster. It's going to get higher stats a lot quicker. Previously, you had to wait till like turn 12 to like even get anything significant out of this card, but now you might get it a little quicker. But it's still kind of a meme-y strategy. I know Swim made a deck from this. Maybe he'll go back to that deck and make it a little better. Who knows? It'll be fun to watch, but I don't really see this having any significant competitive viability still. Maybe I'm wrong about that. That might actually be one of the... This is actually one of the cards that I might be the least correct about, because I don't know, man. It just sounds so memey that it's hard for me to envision this as a competitively viable strategy. It's just too random. And don't get me wrong, random's kind of innate in card games, but it's not consistent enough to really take anything major. So it'll be fun, it'll be neat, it'll be very memey, but for the most part, I don't see this. I guess a really good change. It's really nice, but it'll be, you know, relegated to the meme tier. So, but that's about it. The rest of these are just kind of the watch list. They did mention that Unyielding Spirit is going to be on the watch list, which I think is really good. That is a powerful card, and in a game that lacks non-death / damage related removal, this is just insane. What I mean by that is pretty much everything that interacts with cards or units, I guess, has to deal damage or has to kill it. There's only a few exceptions to that. Will of Ionia being the pretty like notorious exception. That's a, you know, there's a reason that card is a really, really, really good card. And then there's Detain. Detain is another one. Nautilus's champion spell as well. Whenever Nautilus is on the field, it'll shuffle back into the deck. Those are the first 3 cards that come to mind with non-kill / damaged removal, right? None of them have to damage or kill the unit to remove them from the board, and so they can actually handle the Unyielding Spirit. If you're the unlucky player who didn't pick those regions, then don't know what to say, man. You're just gonna have to try and find another way around that card because you're basically screwed. You can't do anything. Like, they just can't be killed and they can't be damaged. So yeah, but yeah, basically in a, you know, in a card pull with that kind of limited interaction, I don't know, it's not the greatest thing to have in your card game. And I'm liking that they're actually onto this. I'm hoping that they can find a decent way to balance this out. I'm not too sure how that'll go, but we'll see. Pilfering goods and card stealing. I'm glad they're onto this. I hope they make some changes to make playing Freljord not feel like crap when you're playing against this particular deck. When you draw from the enemy deck, you can steal their buffs, and that kind of fucks over Freljords super, super hard. So I'm really hoping that they find a way to make that not as just insta-lose if you're playing against Pilfered Goods as Freljord. But I don't know, Pilfered Goods might just, like, Pilfered Goods is just a good card. It's a 2-mana draw 2. Piltover and Zon, or no, not Piltover, the hell am I saying? Bilgewater has a ton of ways to proc plunder for free. There's cards like Warning Shot, which is a 0-mana burst speed spell that just instantly gives you plunder. Twisted Fate gives you plunder. There's a lot of ways to get plunder, so 2-mana draw 2 is really, really good. Outside of stealing from your opponent's deck, like, that kind of card advantage is really nutty. So I would like to see them touch this a little bit more than just simply making it better against Freljord. 2-mana draw 2 is just probably way too good. Maybe 3-mana would be good enough. Who knows? But yeah, they're looking at it. And then finally, Nexus Damage and Rising Tides is the third thing they're putting on the watch list. Well, I guess Karma and Ezreal. Karma and Ezreal have been on the watch list since the beta. But I think if they just mess with Karma, they'll be enough. Ezreal himself hasn't been super overwhelming lately. But whenever you pair him up with Karma, like, I don't know. Again, the machine, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Karma's really fun to play, but really bad to play against. I think I mentioned this. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I recorded this twice because I took too long the first time, and I'm starting to take too long the second time, but I'm not going to change it. But yeah, pew-pewing your opponent's Nexus with machine gun spells can be very fun to play, but very unfun to play against, and so we'll see how this turns out. I'm hoping some Karma, you know, some bigger Karma changes to make her feel a little bit less just crap to play against. And then just in general, making sure that direct Nexus damage isn't super overwhelming. They're talking about all of that stuff being more available because of the update. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much all there is. And then of course you got the best the best part of the patch notes. We get to see the new board, and holy crap, I can't wait to buy this board. This board is insane. Riot is really good at cosmetics. They're really good at making you spend money on all of their cosmetics. They know how to make cosmetics that are very appealing. And this board is just, I can't wait to buy this board. Like, it's a free game and I just want to buy this board. But yeah, that's about it. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, it means quite a lot if you would leave a like, and helps out the channel a lot. If you enjoy these types of discussions, let me know. If this is something that you would rather, maybe I can make it quicker. I do want to stop making I don't want to make these as long. I know I've done these as longer videos. Hopefully the next patch notes, like even if it's one of the big patches, I don't want to make this a 40-minute long video anymore. So I'll be definitely looking at keeping them shorter. But for now, this is what we got. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to check out the stream on Wednesday, and we will play some Legends of Runeterra together. Come in, chat, ask me some questions, all that jazz, and that is going to... I'm going to stop rambling. So let's go ahead and close out the video. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.